I didn't even see the gas light come on. Just 1 second, I was singing along to an old playlist, and the next, the engine sputtered and died like it was holding its breath. The road was empty. No gas station signs, no signal, just dirt, wind, and silence. My phone had 1 bar, enough to tease me with a loading screen, but not enough to actually call anyone. I was alone, completely alone. Or so I thought. 20 minutes later, headlights pulled up behind me. Not fast, not aggressive, just steady, controlled. Out stepped a man in an old tan coat and a ball cap. Looked like someone straight out of a Western, except quieter. He didn't say much, just pointed at my hood and said, "Batteries drained. Happens more than people admit." He jump-started the car, tipped his hat, and said, "Keep going. Some roads only make sense after you've passed them." Then he was gone. But when I climbed into the driver's seat again, there was something sitting in my back seat that hadn't been there before. My name's Callie. I'm 25, and that night, the one with the breakdown, the stranger, and the mystery in my back seat wasn't supposed to be anything more than a long drive to a fresh start. I had packed my life into my old Honda Civic, a few duffel bags of clothes, 3 boxes of books, and a photo album I almost didn't bring because it hurt too much to look at. But something told me not to leave it behind. I'd left the apartment key on the counter. The lease was up. No note, no goodbye, just me and the road. I wasn't running from anything violent or explosive, not this time. It was quieter than that. A relationship that turned stale, a job that turned toxic, friends who stopped being friends the moment I said I needed help. It was like I had slowly been disappearing, pixel by pixel, in my own life. Until I looked in the mirror one morning and realized I didn't recognize the girl staring back. So I planned a move, a clean one. New town, new job lined up. Waitressing again, nothing glamorous, but enough to get by. A studio apartment with peeling paint but good light, and the hope that maybe I could finally hear myself think again. I wasn't supposed to be on that road. I had taken a detour to avoid traffic. Maps said it was faster. No one mentioned it was also deserted, poorly lit, and at least 20 miles from anything resembling cell service. By the time the engine gave out, the sun was long gone. The road behind me, pitch black. The road ahead, curved into nothing. And me, just sitting there, in a car filled with the weight of every version of myself I was trying to leave behind. I tried the ignition. Click. Nothing. I tried my phone. No signal, of course. And so I waited, hoping for anything. What I got was a man I didn't know, in a truck I never heard, wearing a coat that looked older than I was. And when he left, I thought that was it. Just a strange but lucky moment. Until I looked in the back seat and saw the notebook. One I hadn't packed. One I had never seen before. One that somehow already knew my name. It was the kind of darkness that doesn't feel empty. It feels watchful. The highway had narrowed into 2 cracked lanes, lined with brittle trees and brush that bent under the weight of the wind. There were no streetlights, no sounds, just the occasional sigh of tires rolling over gravel, and the soft click of my hazard lights blinking into the void. My phone had been sitting on the passenger seat, useless. No service, was burned into the screen like a taunt. I'd checked it 6 times anyway. I tried the ignition again. Click, click, silence. The air inside the car felt heavier than it should have, like even the vehicle knew it was stuck. I was trying not to panic, trying to convince myself that this was just a delay, a blip, nothing more. but I'd never felt so far from everything. Then I saw it, headlights in the mirror. One set, low to the ground, moving slow. For a split second, I was grateful, then immediately suspicious. Because when you're a woman alone on the side of a deserted road, help doesn't always mean safety. The truck slowed, old, faded red, paint chipped, the kind of truck people call vintage to be polite. It pulled in behind me, and then he stepped out. He looked like something out of a black and white photo. Late 60s, maybe older, weathered face, tan field coat, boots that had seen decades of hard work. He moved slowly, deliberately, but with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. He didn't smile, didn't wave, just tilted his head slightly and said, "Engine won't turn over?" I nodded through the window, keeping one hand on my keys. He looked under the hood without asking. Didn't touch anything at first, just studied it like he was reading a map. Then said, "Battery's tired. Probably the cold. Pop it. I'll give you a jump." I hesitated. My brain was already running through every crime show I'd ever watched, but something in his voice wasn't threatening. It was calm, measured, like he didn't have time to scare anyone, just time to help. I hit the latch. He brought over his cables, didn't ask my name, didn't offer his. We stood in silence while he worked, headlights cutting across the brush like long arms reaching for something. When the engine turned over, I almost cried. He closed the hood, wiped his hands on a cloth that looked like it lived in his glove box, and turned to me. Sometimes cars just need a push, same with people. Then, before I could say anything else, he walked back to his truck. "Wait, do you want anything? A tip? A ride? Something?" I called after him. He paused at the door. "Don't need a thing. Just keep driving. Some roads don't make sense till you've left them behind." He gave a faint nod. Not a goodbye. More like a confirmation. Then he drove off. No plate light, no brake lights. Just gone. I sat there for a long time, heart thumping, engine idling. When I finally exhaled and turned to put my phone back in my bag, that's when I noticed it. The backseat door was ajar, and sitting there, nestled in the middle of my things, was a leather-bound notebook I knew I hadn't packed. No name, no title, just a single note on top that read, "To the woman who still has time." The moment I saw the notebook, my stomach dropped. It wasn't mine. I was sure of it. I'd packed every single item in that car myself, and every duffel, every book, every photo, even the coffee-stained paperback I told myself I'd reread on the trip. But this wasn't one of them. It was too clean. The leather was smooth, worn only at the corners. The pages had weight to them, like a journal that had been carried for years, maybe decades. And the note on top. "To the woman who still has time," written in thick pen, block letters, deliberate, like he knew I'd find it. I turned around and looked out the back window, but the truck was gone. No taillights, no engine hum in the distance. Just an empty road stretching behind me like a long scar. I should have been scared. I wasn't. I was still, like something sacred had entered the car and settled beside me. I picked up the notebook, sat in the driver's seat, and opened the first page. If you're reading this, then I did what I said I wouldn't, left a piece of myself behind. That's not an accident. I've spent a long time letting moments slip away. This time, I wanted to leave something worth holding. You don't know me, but I know who you are. You're someone who almost gave up. I slammed the book shut. It was too much, too close. I sat with it in my lap for a minute, the engine humming gently under the quiet. How could he know that? How could a stranger on the side of a forgotten road know that I had spent the last 2 months thinking I was wasting my life, that I had driven away not just from a town, but from my own fear of turning into nothing? It felt impossible. But the notebook wasn't a threat. It was a mirror, one I hadn't looked into for a long time. I opened it again. More entries, some dated, some not. Short paragraphs, small confessions, stories of people he met, regrets he carried, love he let go of and never found again. But through it all, one thing kept repeating. I should have stayed. I didn't know what to do, so I did the only thing I could. I started driving again, back onto the road, slowly. The notebook beside me, seat belted in like a companion. And somewhere, miles later, as the sun started to rise and the sky shifted from navy to pale gray, I realized he hadn't left it behind by mistake. He chose me, not because I was special, but because I was at the same kind of edge he once stood at, wondering whether to keep going. And now I had his story in my hands, and the strangest thing was, it felt like mine. I drove for nearly 2 hours without music. No podcasts, no calls, just the hum of the tires beneath me and the notebook breathing beside me like it had a heartbeat of its own. I pulled into a gas station when the tank hit a quarter, the kind of dusty, barely lit place with hand-painted signs and a single soda machine that still took coins. I filled up, grabbed a stale sandwich, and sat in the driver's seat with the notebook open on my lap again. That's when something slipped out from the back cover, a folded piece of paper, aged and soft at the edges. Not just paper, a photograph. I unfolded it slowly, already feeling my fingers tremble. It was a picture, old, faded, but intact. A young woman in her 20s, long brown hair pulled back into a ponytail, wide smile, freckles on her cheeks. She looked exactly like me. For a second, I thought it was me. Same cheekbones, same nose, same cautious joy in the eyes. But it wasn't. The clothes were dated, the photo itself too yellowed with time. On the back, in delicate cursive handwriting, were just 2 words. My Grace. My heart stopped. My mother's name was Grace. She died when I was 15. I only had a handful of photos of her, and in all of them, she looked like someone I had just begun to know when she was taken away. I turned the photo back over, stared at the face again, the way her chin tilted, the necklace, simple, silver, the same one I now wore, inherited years later from an old jewelry box I almost forgot I had. There was no mistaking it. This was her, and suddenly, the notebook made sense in a way that shattered me. I flipped back to the first page, looked again at the sentence. You don't know me, but I know who you are. Then I scanned the margins of the next few entries, my eyes moving faster now. There, tucked inside one of the longer paragraphs. I loved her once, deeply, honestly, and badly. I left when I should have stayed. I heard later that she had a daughter, but I never reached out. I slammed the book shut again and stared straight ahead, my breath caught somewhere between a sob and a scream. The man who helped me on that road, the one who said almost nothing, who left without asking for thanks, who gave me a notebook about regret, about second chances, about being seen. He had known my mother. More than that, he had loved her. I didn't know what that made him. A missed chapter, a secret, maybe even the father I never knew I had. I didn't let the thought go too far. Not yet. Not until I knew more. But it was clear now. This wasn't just kindness. This was something unfinished. Something handed down, like an apology trying to find a place to land. And somehow, out of all the roads I could have taken, I ended up on the one that led to him. I didn't leave the gas station right away. I just sat there, holding the notebook like it was some living piece of the past. The photograph tucked safely inside again, close to my heart, and closer to answers I wasn't sure I was ready for. But ready or not, I had to know. So I opened the notebook one last time and flipped to the very back. The final page wasn't an entry. It was a letter. To the girl I never knew, but who carries everything I ran from. If you're reading this, it means I finally stopped hiding long enough to do one decent thing with what time I had left. I met your mother when we were both too young to understand how rare something real could be. I left her because I thought freedom was the only thing worth having. But I've spent a lifetime learning that there's a difference between leaving to grow and running because you're scared. By the time I learned how to stay still, she was already gone, and you were already grown. I didn't come to find you because I didn't want to take something else from you. But I saw you on that road, and I knew that lost look in your eyes. I wore it once, too. I can't ask you to forgive a ghost, but maybe I can help you stop being haunted by your own. Keep going, Callie. Don't become the version of yourself you'll regret one day. The world may forget your name, but it will remember how you lived it. I'll be watching, not from above, just from wherever love ends up when it's left behind too long. A man who stayed too quiet for too long. I cried for a long time. Not the kind of cry that comes with shock, but the slow, grieving kind. The kind that shakes the grief loose from your bones because it finally has a name. The man who helped me, he was gone. I would later find out after searching public records and making a few quiet calls that he passed away less than a week after that night. His truck was found abandoned at a scenic overlook a few hours from where we met. No wallet, no keys, just the wind. But he left something behind. He left me my mother's smile in a photograph I never knew existed. He left me a version of her story I never heard. Not the one about what she lost, but who she once loved. And he left me the space to not become what he did. Someone who watched their life from the outside. Someone who let fear win. A month later, I started over, again, but this time, with both hands on the wheel. I moved into that studio apartment, hung the photo of my mom and him on the wall near my window. The notebook, I still carry it. Sometimes I open to a random page just to remember how close we all are to being seen, if we just slow down long enough to recognize each other. He didn't leave me money or answers or a happy ending. He left me something better, a choice, to stop running, to look back with forgiveness and forward with hope. I don't know if he was my father. I don't know if he came looking for redemption. But I know this much. On a road where I thought no one was coming, he showed up. And in one quiet night, gave me back my life.